active and dressed for that game. Might be close, but he's on the mend as well. Curtis Robinson, maybe a late week decision, but I would probably say doubtful for this game. Hopefully he can make it back, but probably more likely the following week. I think besides that, we're pretty much stand pat. Questions off of not playing a game?
What do you feel like you were able to accomplish during the bye week, and also not even just specific to working with the team since you limited it to 2 practices, but in general, how do you feel it went?
Priority number one was rest. We had a lot of guys playing a lot of snaps, a lot of young guys playing a lot of snaps, and usually, I said this last week, usually it's the bye week is getting a lot of young guys, a lot of reps doing our stuff, but we have so many young guys playing that it was good for us not to practice as much, but we looked ahead a little bit as coaches to Colorado, but for the most part, we were just running our stuff and getting some young guys some reps and getting some guys that are playing a lot of snaps off their feet.
Obviously, without getting into specifics, how important was last week from a recruiting standpoint since you guys didn't have a game, one less practice, more time to get on the road after that?
It was good, and at the same time, measure that between the coaches getting some rest also. We can't try to finish this season worn down as well. So thankfully, I think we did get out, got a chance for some guys to get out and see some guys. I had a chance to get out myself, just for day and a half, and then get back and then really get ready for this last 4-game push. I will say this too, and I've told our guys this. In-season recruiting nowadays, based on how early everything is, the importance of in-season recruiting is really, really lower than it used to be. We've seen so much of these guys from their junior years to early film this year. It used to be you want to go out and see some guys live and make some decisions. Most of our decisions are made. It's nice to go pick up transcripts. It's nice to go watch some guys play live. But it used to be the bye weeks, we're shaving those practices. Coaches are missing practices. They're getting out on Wednesday and spending 3-4 days on the road. I don't know that that's necessary during the season anymore.
Along those recruiting lines, we talked about this a few different times, but with the quarterback evaluation process, how that's gotten accelerated even more. What is it that you're looking at, and what boxes do you check with the lesson and importance of in-season recruiting?
It is crazy time coaching or recruiting quarterbacks in particular as early as some of these guys are getting offered. And a lot of them are getting offered before they're really mature. A lot are getting offered before they've really played a varsity snap. So for us, we try to be as methodical as possible. I don't believe in offering 10 quarterbacks like some people do, offering a bunch of guys, trying to get as many guys as possible. Our process, I think, is a little bit more narrowed. Obviously, we have an academic component that most other schools don't have. On top of that, we have a very specific set of criteria that we're looking for. We're not just looking for pocket passers, and we're looking for guys that are athletes. We're looking for the best combination of skill set, personality, intelligence, accuracy, all those things that we need to check off. So for us, it's very, very specific. We have a pool that we're looking for, the 2021s. It looks like a really good class, but we're not looking for 7 or 8. We're looking for 1. It'll be a slower process for us than it is for other people, which I'm completely fine with. And for the guys that have what we're looking for, more often than not, they're looking for us. So many of them will wait to make a decision based on what we do.
You talk about Casey being selected as semifinalist for the Campbell Award and kind of what that means and why he's a great choice for that.
Yeah, Casey Toohill, from the moment he got here, he's just been a high effort, try to do everything right, pour himself into everything that he does. That's how he was raised. That's who he is. So it's not a surprise that he's on that list, because that list, it's an impressive list, and it's a high honor just to be considered. Because what it says is that you're one of those people that excels in academics and excels in your sport, and that's what I believe everyone in college football, college athletics should strive to do. So this recognition is very, very significant, and we're very well deserved. Casey is energetic and positive and focused, and has developed into an outstanding leader. And like nothing would make us happier than for him to win that award.
With going four games to go, your overall takeaways from the season to this point, some things you're looking forward to as we get going?
Well, the season at this point, long injury reports, and justification for how we recruit and who we recruit. And I say that because a lot of teams would not be able to handle what we've had to handle this year, whether it's a depth standpoint and be able to put 3 freshmen on the offensive line and start a freshman at nickel and a freshman at corner, and be able to go out there and perform. To be able to have 105 guys on the team pull in the same direction when you lose 3 games in a row and still coming together. So recruiting the right guys and having the right guys here, yes, to help us be successful, yes, to help us win championships like we all want to do, but then also be able to handle when things don't go well. And not everything goes well everywhere. So there's going to be times where things are difficult, and can't say it enough about the people we have in our locker room that are fiery and energetic and passionate and want to go out and play hard together and win. And when we have a disappointment, we have a setback, they pool back together and have each other's backs, and they go back out there and fight. And so I think in a lot of different ways, this season is really going to pay dividends for us down the road, because we've had to throw young guys in the fire, absolutely, and they've gotten experience, absolutely. But I think we've also become a tougher team. I think we started off pretty tough. I think we're tougher now than we were early in the season. And that toughness for all the guys that finished this year, for all those guys that come back next year, going through difficult things, pays off in the end. So I'm excited about not the path that we've taken necessarily, but that our attitude and mentality and work ethic through that path.
Talking about the 3 freshmen on the offensive line, can you just let us know where you've seen the most growth from, Walter, Barrett, and Jake as they played more and more together?
It's every day there's something. Just, okay, new game plan. And sometimes when we're installing a game plan, we say, okay, hey, remember when we did this before? And half the room doesn't remember. Like, okay, you weren't here. We did this last year. Okay. So it's just continuing to teach. There's usually a combination of teaching and reminding. For the most part, we're just teaching. And the guys are receptive and positive, and they're not perfect, and they make mistakes, and they don't hang their heads. They learn and they grow. And biggest thing you always want from one of the biggest things from a coach as a coach that you want is for guys not to repeat the same mistakes. And our guys don't. They learn, they grow, they see something new and react to it, and then we address it and go back and practice it, and they get better. So I've seen constant improvement from these guys. I think the ceiling's really high, and we're nowhere close to the ceiling. I think to a man, they all know they need to get stronger, and they just I'm excited to see what these guys were able to do when they get into spring football and go back and watch themselves from earlier this season. And typically what happens, they put their head in their hands and say, oh my gosh, look at what I did there. But every one of those plays is a learning experience. So they've gotten better. They've stayed positive. They've had some success. They've made some mistakes. But once again, it's paying off, and not just paying off for next year. A lot of that's going to pay off this week and the following week and the following week.
Seems like the defense has had some of its biggest struggles on the road. Any kind of theme between those and some improvement this week and next week?
Yeah, teams play better at home, kind of across the country. So you get back in someone else's environment, and their game amps up, and we've played against some really good players. We've seen all year what those receivers at USC can do, those receivers at Central Florida can do. Now, we played a part in that. There's things that we could have and should have done better. And I think we've learned a lot of lessons. Not just the young guys learning lessons, some of the older guys learning lessons. I think one of our biggest bugaboos the entire year has been giving up big plays, in particular on the road. So making sure that we take proper angles in the secondary, make sure we're staying on top at the corner position, and make sure that we're getting after the quarterback, make sure that we don't let a 5-yard run with a broken tackle turn into a 40-yard run. Those are all big things for us that have shown up on the road more so than they have at home. But hopefully getting some rest and looking at a lot of different things, and coming back with a renewed energy for this 4-game push. Hopefully we can cut down those big plays and, play better, complete defense on the road.
The weather doesn't seem like it's going to be a factor necessarily. Forecasted like 70 degrees in Denver on Saturday. Outside of that, or even with that, any extra variables that you have to plan for when you go to Colorado and go to Boulder?
There's really not much you can do except for be conscious of it, that the elevation is different. And typically, having played there many times as a coach, both with the Raiders going to the Broncos and playing at Colorado a few times also, personally playing. My freshman year, we went out there, and actually I didn't play. I was redshirting, but I was at the game. Just going through pregame warm-ups and feeling that shortness of breath. Usually it takes about a quarter and a half. Usually by midway through the second quarter, you're adjusted. But the first quarter, if you play a lot of plays in a row, you find yourself kind of gasping for air a little bit. There's nothing really you can do to prepare for it other than prepare yourself mentally for it, and for us coaches to be ready to make sure we're doing some good rotations during the early in the game if guys are playing a lot of snaps. But the human body is unbelievable, and typically you adjust before halftime and play the second half, and it's just like playing at home.
With Kurt's being doubtful, as you mentioned, what would you see that inside linebacker rotation potentially being for this game?
Yeah, that's a great question. We talked about that yesterday and talked about it again today, and we'll see how the week goes. But Ryan Beecher will play significantly, obviously. We've got some young guys that have played in some games also this year that may have to rotate in. And once again, you talk about early in that game where if we play a lot of snaps, we have to rotate some guys to keep some guys fresh. So you may see some young guys out there. We don't necessarily have a sequence right now. Kind of depends how the week goes. And we're pretty versatile there between our base 34 and our nickel as to who we can put in there for different parts of the game. So that's going to be an ongoing conversation that hopefully we'll have a good plan by Wednesday, after Wednesday's practice, once we get through our 2 main practices, to see where Curtis is, but then also to see of those young guys who's practiced the best and is most ready to go out there and play.
When you usually play your corners, Paulson stays on one side, Cuddy stays on the other, but when you're playing against a talent like Rotational, do you see him specifically? Is there a chance that you see if Paulson follows him wherever he goes, or is that
There could be some combination. Most importantly, we all have to know where he is. Whether Paulson travels or we switch sides, everybody in the secondary has to know where that guy is on every play. He's one of the best in America at what he does, and we have to recognize that and make sure that, number one, we keep him in front of us, and we bring as many guys to the party as possible and try to get him on the ground.
Overall thoughts on the Buffaloes and some challenges that they have to close.
Well, I think the biggest thing for us in this game is recognize, like I said earlier, they play really well at home. They're going to be fired up. They fly around. The last half of the season, thus far, they've really been an attacking style, like what Mel Tucker's been known for on the defensive side. And they fought USC tooth and nail and had them to the end. And that's what we're anticipating. We're anticipating an aggressive style of defense. Anticipating the multiplicity of their offense with an athletic quarterback who's got some experience and a star player that we have to account for, and the variety of things that they do on the offensive side, between spreading you out and running it inside and running it outside, and some of their movements and play actions, trying to play great team defense against the variety of things that they show, and at the same time recognizing where that guy is every play. And not to mention special teams is always a factor. And whether it's in the return game, the elevation adds a little distance to every kick, as we all know. But we have to be prepared to try to make a play in the return game and try to slow down their return game. So that's the way I'm looking at this game. Experience, because he doesn't panic. We've had that before, and we had that, I believe, now with KJ Costello, veteran quarterbacks, played a lot of football. Kevin Hogan, when he was here, his 5th year, played a lot of football. When you get in this guy's face, he doesn't panic. He just kind of backs up. He knows he's a better athlete than most guys going after him, so he can slide a little bit. He can move a little bit and buy a little time and put the ball in a safe place, either throw it away or scramble or give a guy a chance to make a play. That's really what you see, and you don't hear a lot of people talking about his speed and athleticism, but this guy's rushed for a lot of yards over the years, both design quarterback runs, but then also escaping the pocket. So it's another week, like last week, that we have to account for the quarterback's legs as a key factor of the game.
You mentioned special teams. One of the teams in the country that has a dedicated special teams coach. How do you go about kind of quantifying that advantage that you've gotten from Coach Alomar and his achievements over the years?
Well, number one for me is the fact that he coaches the kicker, he coaches the punter, he coaches the long snapper. Not a lot of special teams coaches can truly coach those positions. Most of those guys have a kicking specialist that they keep in touch with, and a lot of special teams coaches are great at the scheme and just try not to mess with those guys too much. Whereas Coach Alomar, he takes over when they get here, and he knows how to teach the drop on a punt, right? How to hold it, how to teach it, how to correct it when it's wrong, which is vital. The plant leg of the field goal kicker, right? It doesn't get talked about a lot, but that's extremely important in being able to spend time. And for most of my career, I haven't had special teams coaches on my staff that coach the kickers. And typically what happens when you have a special team coach that coaches a position, during the bulk of practice, all those specialists are on the side over there, and who knows what they're doing, right? Because that special teams coach is coaching tight ends or safeties or whatever it is, and then we get to special teams, and then they get coached. At our practices, Coach Alomar spends a lot of time with those guys, and we're working on the things they need to work on. And they have a dedicated coach that is watching everything they do, much like everybody else on our team. So for me, over the years, you see the advancement and the improvement of our specialists because they're getting specific coaching every single day. You watch Jet grow and improve. Ryan Sanborn now, is doing all three, right? Kicking off, punting, and kicking field goals. So on top of managing his volume in practice, Coach Alomar is also talking to him very specifically about the techniques of all three of those and making sure that he's doing everything right. So I think there's a great comfort in those specialists, knowing that their coaches or his coaches watching everything that they do, and helping them and giving them that guidance so they can go out there and perform.
Coach, you may not see action in this game, but there's a deep connection with Blake Stenstrom and obviously his dad, Steve, who you know well. Maybe a quick thought on Blake and any thoughts on Steve's career.
Yeah, Steve and I were here at the same time. We're the same year. Became really good friends. Actually, we met at Stanford football camp the year before and came in as freshmen together, became friends, lived together in the suites in the backside of campus our sophomore year, and really have had a friendship for a long time now. We just had our 25th reunion, and I remember when the pictures when Blake was born, and it's still so weird. We're at that age now where you do double takes when I see his picture we print out the pictures of the guys on the other team, and I'm like, oh my gosh, still can't believe he's in college. But Steve and Lori have done an outstanding job raising all their kids. Blake is an outstanding human being. He's very, very smart. He's a good football player, and look forward to giving him a hug before and after the game. Thank you all.
Open it up for questions for Michael Williams.
Good morning.
How was the bye week for you?
It was good. Got to chill a little bit. They took it off I know for the defensive side, they took it off our seniors a little bit, our starters. Let us get our bodies back. Let some of the young guys get some reps, get more reps, and then develop. For us, it was more of like a rest period.
And so resting physically, wondering, is there kind of an increase in the mental side of what you guys were doing in terms of maybe some studying and reflecting, or was it like a complete shut-off recovery time?
I think it was more a shut off and recovery time. Towards the end of the week, we started watching some Colorado film and things like that. A little bit of us just to check back on the game. I had already watched the game like 6-7 times, so it was more just relax, recover, get ready for this last 4-game stretch.
What did you see on film from Colorado? What are you expecting to get from them on Saturday?
I like Colorado. Offensively, the scheme is nice to me. Some teams you can key in on certain things, like you can tell the ball's going here. A lot of up-tempo teams, it's a very basic offense. You know where the ball's going. Just you got to be mentally and physically able to get there and stop it. Colorado is different. It's more like 50-50. You can't really tell where it's going. You got to play everything honest. So I think I like their scheme, and I like how their linemen move and how the coaches move the people around the ball and change up the alignments.
And when you were doing some kind of looking back, and you mentioned watching the game a number of times, um, anything standing out to your eyes that you feel like is good progress for you individually, and then maybe within your D-line group?
I think we're rolling more, defensive line group. We talked about this with Coach Reynolds for 3 years now. It's just getting everybody active. Sometimes the past couple of years we only had 3-4 guys we put on the field, and now this year we throw everybody out there. We have Tomas, Dalen, Ryan gets some plays out there, Booker, Javon, me. So it's more of just being able to throw waves at people, and then I think in that sense, we have become able to just have interchangeable parts.
Speaking of Tomas, I think it's fair to say
Tomas got very big very fast. I think Tomas is a grown man. That's a grown man out there. And for Tomas, it's his strength and his length. Nobody can contend with that. He's 6'7" and strong. And with Tomas, he can do anything he wants. When he puts his mind to it, he does anything he wants. Uncle Julio? Well, it's a name I just came up with when I was younger in high school. It kind of stuck with me. It stuck with me. All my Instagram names, my Twitter names, all just stuck with me. And now people kind of see it as a persona. I come with the jewelry on and things like that, the earrings on. I don't have them on right now, but it's just me. I'm all the same person.
Is that the off-field persona, or does that come out on the field as well?
On the field, I'm just bland. I'm just there. No words, just go. It comes out off field, just in the locker room when I'm around my friends. Just when I'm just being me, I can get relaxed and just say everything that comes to my head and just have fun with people.
One thing that could help, I mean, is going to Colorado, you get that altitude, but it does kind of, it's something that you notice it kind of gets you used to the game. I guess one, have you played there before? And two, like, what is the kind of preparation like for a lineman? And you guys kind of go hard every play, 300-pound guys coming right back at you. And how do you prepare for what you're going to get there?
Closest thing I've had to Colorado is when we played at Utah. I think 2 years ago. You get used to it. You get used to the altitude. I think it'll be an adjustment period for like the first quarter or so, but it's just football at the end of the day.
And then, just kind of for those last 4 games, what are you looking to accomplish both individually and then as a defensive line?
Simply just win, honestly. But as a defensive line group, we want to stop the run. I think that's always been our main goal: stop the run and then be able to rush the passer. So just making sure teams don't run on us, and we know if we can get them behind us, behind the sticks, we can let our rushers go, and it'll be a fun time then. We just got to make sure they don't get the garbage yards, 3-4 yard carries each play, and then we can have fun.
You and your D-line mates obviously practice against the offensive line a lot, and you're obviously seeing the same faces over and over again because it's a small group.
Yeah.
What's your perspective on what they've been going through this season, and is there anyone that you feel like in your time competing against them has made a lot of progress?
I was talking about this yesterday. The freshmen they kind of flipped the switch. When they first got here, you can tell they were kind of just nervous a little bit, and they weren't comfortable. But once you start getting thrown in there, you have to start games. You playing games a lot. You start getting real comfortable, and I can see them start getting that streak in them, and they start getting real comfortable, fighting us a little bit, fighting more. And I like the aggressiveness I see from them. I think the guy I like the most on the O-line is Drew Dahlman. Me and Drew been together for a long time. I was here when he was a redshirt freshman. So I got to kind of see what he was when he first got here and what he developed into. I just love the work from him. I admire him for that. He works hard. One of the hardest workers I've ever seen. Perfect.
What's up, guys?
All right, KJ, how are you?
Huh? Dude, I still can't hold a club.
So yeah, on that, being able to play and kind of get through a game not 100%, you were having to high five everybody left-handed. What was that experience like? Do you ever had to kind of like, I know you played against Oregon after it happened. You have to play knowing you've got to adjust from the get-go, but not being able to like be exactly how you usually are with your right hand.
Unfortunately, I've had a little bit of experience with it. I remember in that Pac-12 championship, my redshirt freshman year, it was very similar. It was just it happened in the third quarter, so I really only had a quarter. I didn't really have time to like kind of adjust for it. And then I ended up playing that bowl game that year, so it's not my first time dealing with this, but I think the difference between the times I've dealt with it in Oregon when it, was obvious that I was trying to figure out ways to catch a snap. It didn't take any sort of bandwidth up top when I was playing. It wasn't hurting me enough to affect my thought process pre-snap or my pre-snap reads or my communication with my guys on the sideline rather than with the trainers, etc. So I was really completely locked in the game plan, and however it affected me physically it didn't really affect me mentally at all. So I think was the biggest difference from the past couple weeks when I've been trying to play and this most recent game.
Did you surprise yourself how well you threw it, or did you just know it?
I mean, I hadn't really thrown for like 2-3 weeks, so I mean, I don't want to say there was any surprises. I mean, I was able to perform semi-effectively in practice. Obviously, there's a different factor in terms of adrenaline in game. I mean, did I surprise myself? I think I just put the ball where I visualized putting it, thousands of times before. So I wasn't necessarily – I kind of would have been more surprised if I wasn't able to throw it effectively because my mind was set on, going out and playing well again.
What would you say after looking at that film would be maybe the areas you want to try to improve on performance against Arizona?
Yeah. No, I mean, I watched that tape many times, especially with that bye week. But I think it was very similar to a lot of games like early last season or early the season before. Definitely made some progress in terms of moving through progressions that maybe I didn't make my first couple games as a starter or even as last year, San Diego State, and a couple other games. But I think like later in the game, I started moving through progressions a little bit better. I think there was a couple times, we had some double moves on with Simi, and there was another time when I had another shot play up where obviously I was first time back. I was a little bit greedy, but on the other side of the progression, was a guy running wide open, with, we like to describe it as a clear advantage for if we don't have a clear advantage, the guy we're taking a shot to progress, we'll come back to it another time. I think a couple times, I was excited, let it go to Simi a couple times. He got held up one time when I think we could have had another big play. But just progressing, staying calm in the pocket, something I worked all offseason on. But in game, you get a little bit more you can't really replicate it in practice. So you get a little bit more realistic feel of what it actually feels like to be calm in the midst of the chaos. And so I think just progressing, I think I had like a little over 10 incompletions. I think it could have maybe only incompleted 4 or 5 times, throwaways here and there. But there was sometimes when I was hanging on the front end of progressions, and I'd like to continue to work on that.
There are some younger guys who are getting more and more play as the season goes on. Austin is one of them, Austin Jones. From your perspective, did you see anything when you were rewatching the Arizona game that kind of stood out in terms of what he's able to do now versus maybe when he first got here? And then just in practice, what have you seen from him?
Yeah. Austin's going to be a good running back for us. I don't want to say I feel like he's kind of a combination of like Bryce and Christian. Like he's kind of right in between. I mean, he really has that wiggle and lateral movement, kind of like both of them did. But in terms of size, I think he's built a little closer to Christian, and he'll put his head down. I see him countless times put his head down and run people over. But he's also got really good lateral movement. The reason why I kind of compare him to Christian a little bit is because his ability to come out of the backfield. I think that's important in our offense and where we're moving. I think it always will be important in any offense, but I think, we got him out of the backfield a couple times. He's one-on-one with the linebacker. Even if the linebacker's close to him after the catch, he has the ability to make that guy miss. And a lot of times the next guy is a good 5-10 yards away. So that's an advantageous look for any offense, having a running back on a linebacker. I'd like to see him progress, like all the other young guys have done in terms of feeling defenses, feeling holes. I think he's done a great job in the run game every chance he's gotten. And, I'm also excited to see Nate too. Obviously there's only one running back, and Cam's doing a great job. But those guys are going to be a really good tandem over the years.
What is the season began? You mentioned using Coach Anderson as kind of a resource to do self-scouting of yourself. How do you feel? Have you been able to do that this season, and what have you learned if you have?
Yeah, well, I think as the season went on with me coming out the last 3-4 weeks before Arizona, I was kind of able to hang out and watch 7-on-7 against our own defense, and kind of talk to Akina and talk to some coaches when I had a little bit of free time roaming around. But I really more understood how they game plan quarterbacks, not necessarily just me, by talking to guys like Malik and Curtis and Pritz and talking to those guys about how they visualize stopping a quarterback. So it wasn't necessarily me sitting down one-on-one with Coach Anderson, which I still love to do. I'm glad you reminded me of that. But yeah, it was more me understanding how defenses game plan offense.
I know you took some shots early in the season and you got banged up a little bit, but is it possible that you are actually a little fresher body-wise this time of year now than maybe you were a year ago?
Yeah, I think so. I'm excited to go play 4 good games. Yesterday at practice, I felt great. I felt really fresh in terms of legs and the rest of the body. I think that's a good observation, and I think I also feel fresh mentally. I feel very eager to get out there and practice and not make up lost time, because I did learn stuff being out. But I think I'm very committed to keep the momentum going with this team. I think everybody deserves it. I think we've worked too hard not to feel good about what we're doing here, and I don't want that bye week to kind of allow us to forget the momentum that we've created. So I'm trying to keep that going.
Given your experience over the past 4 years here at Stanford, and kind of looking back to when you were in high school, how would you evaluate a quarterback if you were a coach who's out recruiting now, and kind of what advice would you give to any kind of quarterback, or what would you be looking for in a quarterback that's looking to be in the position where you are right now?
Yeah. Put my coaching hat on. No, I mean, I think that more often there's quarterbacks coming out, that are running either a very much pass heavy offense, or vice versa, doing a lot of zone read, RPO type stuff. And I think I was fortunate enough to come from a high school where my high school coach, my offense coordinator, came from Fresno State. They kind of did a little bit of both with Derek Carr. But I think focusing on, in each offseason in high school, working on things that aren't in your system. So a coach who's looking to recruit you isn't not going to recruit you because you can't do X and Y. I think that Stanford looks for a very specific style of quarterback, and I think a lot of other schools do the same thing. And I feel like you don't really want to be restricted in terms of where you want to go. I mean, you kind of got to shape your game and your strengths to where you dream about playing. I mean, you're obviously not going to go to a school running triple option or something like that if you want to come to Stanford. But also on the flip end, you don't want to be running the ball a ton in an offense where you run the ball a ton if you want to go to Washington State. So you kind of got to align your values and your vision with where you think you want to play.
One more. Sorry. One of the other things you said before the season was that you wanted to kind of find out what kind of leader you would be coming back, having lost some of the leadership that was on the team last year. And given the way the season's been, what would you make of that decision? What have you learned about yourself, and how do you feel like you've grown?
Yeah, well, I think adversity is good. I think adversity is great for everybody. Because, at its core, it really forces you to look down inside them. You have no other option but to find out who you are when you don't have everything going well for you. So I think in terms of that, I did some good soul searching over 3-4 weeks and realized that I wanted to come back, and very similar to the first time I came out and played against UCLA. I mean, I remember writing down, after that game, that I wanted to play every single game the rest of my career, regardless of where it was or what day it was, with that kind of fire and energy. And, to a certain extent, I feel like I did, and then I think you get injured, things happen, the game's not flowing your way, and you don't want to be pressing for anything to happen. And I think a lot of times we do that, because we want to be great so bad. I think a lot of times we kind of got to let things happen a little easier. We we really stress about scoring first drive and here. And a lot of times when we settle in, Coach Shaw's mentioned many times, like in the second half when we know what defenses are doing, like we play really good. So I think in terms of me, what I learned is that I have to be a catalyst. I have to get guys going. That's part of my job description. You know, it's not just the offense. It's the entire team. It's before the game. It's during the game. It's making eye contact with my guys. You know, I remember in the off season, the program said, you know, leadership's a contact sport. And I took that to heart. I've always felt like I've been that way, but like constantly reminded me to keep everybody kind of on the same wavelength. I feel like I was looking at guys on defense. I was celebrating with Pritzy, with Malik, and Jet when he was playing. I think it's like there's something to be said about the connection of the team and the team playing much better when everyone's bought in. And so I feel like I did a decent job of that last week, and I want to kind of keep that going and also want to inspire everybody to kind of get on that same level in terms of bringing the energy on game day. Cool. Thanks, guys.